Welcome everyone to the third episode of Hacking Success with Juvi. This time we are going to make this episode in English. So I'm so happy for that. And also, I would like to let you know that this is a challenge for me because I am with my coaches. So this is a kind of, it's a kind of a challenge and exam for me, to be honest. Okay, so today we will be talking about how to be confident in English. Because, for example, in my case, English is my second language, and I even met Jeremy and Taylor, and they have helped me so much to get confidence and to really get fluency when I am speaking English. So yeah, I'm so happy, and I want to say thank you again, guys, for being here and for making this episode. I know everybody is gonna enjoy it. So, to start, I would like you to start telling us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your program, what you are doing currently, and so on, please.
Great. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for having us. We're so happy to be here. I'm Taylor, and this is Jeremy.
Hello.
And we have, like you said, we've been working with you for a while now, and it's been amazing. Jeremy, you want to tell them a little bit about what we do?
Yeah, Juvi makes us sound really cool. So,
Because you are.
so a little background from me and Taylor is actually we started teaching at the beginning of COVID-19. Once COVID hit, I was actually training to be a massage therapist at the time. Taylor had been working with her family barbershop for a long time and had recently decided to stay home with our kids. Um, But once COVID hit, we had no form of income, essentially. And we decided to turn online, and we had a big background with our families for teaching and everything. And we just started creating content and creating videos in English. Creating videos eventually evolved into live streams, which then evolved into private lessons. And from there, we continue doing research. And over the past 5 years, we have now been able to develop a method that we now use, that Juvi actually used, in order to take English speakers to the next level. And so that's now our next goal. And what we are currently working on is not just teaching English, but bringing people to that next level.
Yeah. So essentially, we are English confidence coaches for women who use English as a second language. And we help them go from feeling stuck and feeling like they haven't been getting better in their English and not feeling confident to becoming unstoppable in their English speaking careers. And it's been
Great.
a really fun ride.
Yeah, I know. You can tell. Yeah, I would like to explain people why women, because that's a big question that I have received through my social media, because it's like men have asked me, but why only women? Because I am a man and I also want to become fluent and confident in English. So I think that is interesting.
That
Yeah,
one,
definitely.
I was going to say that one was actually Taylor's idea. I even kind of brought that up saying like, hey, why not men and everything. So I think that Taylor would actually be much better at explaining this than I am.
So there are actually a handful of reasons why we choose to work with solely women in our program. And it's mainly the biggest reason is that we believe that women have a completely different experience. This is not to say that men don't have a similar experience, but women have a different experience than men when it comes to being in the workspace, and their learning journey looks differently. And so you kind of have to teach things a little bit differently. And I think one of the most important things for us overall is we're all about creating a safe space for women. And um, we love men too. But it is very, very important to us, especially when we're talking to women who have a lack of confidence. We want to know that they can be vulnerable with us, and they
Yeah,
don't have to.
vulnerable. Yeah.
Yeah, vulnerability is important with learning. You have to learn to be vulnerable. And sometimes it's just easier when you have somebody who's on the same path as you and who have similar experiences. So, yeah, that's basically in a nutshell why we work solely with women.
Yeah, and I would like to add that I am a current student of Jeremy and Taylor in this resourceful English program method, sorry. And I have the experience of sharing what I have having situation that I am having in my workspace, that I am having with my colleagues, and I can be totally honest with them and receive feedback from that honesty that I am having with them. So I feel really secure and safe. This doesn't mean that men make dangerous a situation or a place, but it's that it's what Taylor was saying, that when we are with women that also are experiencing things like us, well, that feels different. That feels totally different.
Yeah,
So
it creates kind of a
Absolutely.
sisterhood.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. Yeah. Well, I would like to start asking you about tips and actionable tips that we can apply to improve our English and especially our fluency, because I feel like grammar, grammar information about vocabulary, you can find all that information on internet with AI. So I think what you are bringing to the table, guys, it's really different, and I think that it's we have to share it with all people. So we
Ah,
all know that, yeah, we all know that fear of making mistake is a big blocker, you know. But we can get specific, guys. Let's take a listener example. Someone who freezes when they have to speak English, and especially for a job interview, because I had to interview people last week, and people said I am an advanced English speaker, but when we were speaking English, they were like, "Oh my God, I don't know how to say. I don't know how to answer your questions." So I would like you to walk us through a step by step to manage the fear, even if we are making grammatical mistakes.
yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that we do forget, and I apologize to anyone who's looking for like validation. I do know that Juvi asked us to give a no BS version of this.
Yeah, exactly.
To put very simply, if you are having consistent fear when it comes to speaking English, it is not your vocabulary. It is not your grammar. It's here, right? It is all up in here. And that's not to say that you are crazy or anything, but we are doing crazy things. And that is repeating a process over and over again, but expecting a different result. I'm scared, so I'm just going to learn more words. I'm scared, so I need more apps, right? And that's just, it doesn't make sense. What we need to understand is that sometimes we mistake our feelings in that situation. One of the things that is really, really cool to know is that the feelings you get in your body, sweaty palms, heavy breathing, shaking, all of that happens when you're nervous, but it also happens when you're excited. And so I think that a lot of people, we start to feel this and we instantly say fear. But if we were to simply say excitement, that would suddenly change the way we start to speak. So looking at conversations differently and understanding that in most situations, it's not a fear or something that we're doing wrong with our speaking. It's the fear of making mistakes that holds us back.
Yeah. And if I might add to that, um, I think it's really important to know that you can kind of picture your mind like a filing cabinet. And
Okay.
when you are making a presentation, they chose you because you know all of the information. They are not going to throw a beginner into the presentation world. They are going to take someone who has the knowledge already. And so if you can be well aware that I have all of that knowledge, I know it's there. Sometimes when I'm nervous, it's harder to find the right words. Sometimes it's harder to organize my thoughts. And so if you just know that I know this, I 100% know this, and I just need to find the word, take it slowly. You can locate it, especially if you are thinking in terms of I'm excited rather than I'm nervous, because again, they feel the same. It's just about how you look at it.
Mm.
But yeah, and everybody makes grammatical errors. I do every day, every single day.
And since you did ask, though, for an actionable step that they can take, we refer to Mel Robbins' 5-second rule. Mel Robbins created an idea of the 5-second rule. And essentially, it's if you interrupt your thought process, you can't chicken out. But if you give your brain longer than 5 seconds before you start something, it will find excuses not to do it. Oh, I'm feeling a little chubby. I should go on a run. But it's a little rainy outside and it's getting late, right? But if I had just started that run, it would have been done, right? So it's the same with speaking. Find a situation where it's risk-free. Obviously, don't practice on your next interview. That's not the good time to be trying new things all of a sudden, right? You want to find a friend or a community in which you can speak with, where there is nothing wrong with making mistakes, and build your competence, because competence equals confidence. Count to 5, make the conversation in a low-risk environment, and then evaluate and build. So that way, when you do have that important conversation, you have more competence and thus more confidence around speaking.
Awesome. Awesome. Love that, guys.
There's a
Thank
little
you.
long. I'm sorry.
No, I love that. I love that because I feel like I think that it's not quite common to talk about this and in English speaking about people who speak English as a second language, because we see that many teachers on internet say things like you have to get 5 new words every single day. You have to learn
For $30.
for $30. Yeah, and that's free. That's free in Gemini, on Gemini. Yeah. So
Yeah.
talking about this, about those language courses focus on grammar. Can you share some exercise that listeners can do at home while commuting, or that will improve their fluency and ability to speak naturally?
Absolutely. So, mainly talking about things that you can do when you're not, I'm going to sit down and study, more so things when you're busy, right? So, let's start with like commuting. Of course, podcasts. Podcasts and music are great. And when you're at home watching TV, there is no shame in watching with subtitles. I watch movies with subtitles, and it helps me understand everything. If I didn't hear a word,
And she's a
it's right
native,
there.
guys. And
I'm a
she's a
native
native.
speaker. Jeremy and I, it's like we are deaf. If we don't watch with subtitles, it's my brain can't compute it. So I will get lost if I'm not watching with subtitles in English. So yeah, there's never shame in it. Most of the people I know who are native speakers use subtitles when we watch movies or TV
Yeah.
shows.
It's more for comprehension than reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. I know a lot of people have a goal of watching movies in English without subtitles. I mean, that's great for your own personal like milestone, but it's not a measurement of fluency.
It's not going to help you get a job.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to building your grammar and a sentence structure and wanting to sound more natural, us as native speakers, when we're younger, we grow up listening to people before we ever have an English lesson at school. Before we ever set foot in a classroom, we are using sentences. We are listening to everything, and we are talking a lot.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and Taylor, if I might interrupt, that's the same with a lot of languages. If you think about it, you were fluent in your language before you ever learned the rules of your language.
yeah. And so just picking up on how others speak. When you're watching TV, when you're folding your laundry and listening to a podcast, you are, for one, sometimes you're doing something boring, and that kind of helps you remember what the speakers are saying. But you listen to how they're speaking. You can mimic them if you want, but you are going to pick up on patterns of how they're structuring their sentences, and the way that they're saying it. Their intonation is really important too. And you'll hear those tricky words, especially with subtitles. You'll see a funny word that you've never seen before, but then you'll hear them say a familiar word. And so suddenly, oh, that's how you spell it. So yeah, that's my tip, is just absorbing it while you're at home or while you're driving.
Yeah, it's the I believe that we forget how powerful our brains are, right? For thousands of years, the human has been adapting, and we have learned new languages, new accents. We have learned just different things that even now an infant, a toddler, is 10 times better at technology than I ever was when I was 18, right? Like, we learn very quickly. But people don't trust their brains to learn. They feel that they have to have these giant textbooks. They have to have a native English speaker in order to learn, right? They have to pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on all of these little libraries that they buy and all these
$30 a month,
apps.
$30 a month, $30 a month.
And so they don't trust themselves that if they really just started talking and listening, that's what gets the brain going. And I'm sure that you guys I remember that some people are very confused with our program when we bring them in and they go, okay, where's my textbook? And we go, there is none, start talking. Right? And we're go talk. And they but it is the competence equals confidence again, right? And so yes, just like to echo with what Taylor is saying, listening as much as possible, podcast, Netflix and everything, but also repeating it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to talk out loud to yourself while you're watching Netflix, especially for that intonation.
Yeah.
He said what? He said what? You know.
Experience is the best teacher. And
Yeah,
so go
definitely.
experience it. Stop watching other people experience it. You go experience it, and then you will learn. Make the mistakes, because you're going to get more feedback the more mistakes you make, right?
Yeah, love it. I would like that you mentioned Netflix and podcast. I would like you. I know that this is part of the program that you were teaching us that it's okay to watch Netflix, but I would like to explain why that but.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
with what we prefer you to use Netflix for?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Take it away, Jeremy.
This one is more numbers, right? If you're trying to maximize your listening. Now, I do love Netflix. I watch Netflix and everything. But if we were looking at 100-minute movie, right? Just for easy math, it's 100-minute movie. More than a third of that is going to be visual. That coming over the canyon, or that pause, while everyone's looking, or the romantic scene when they're kissing, but that's not talking, right? That is now visual. Not to mention the credits, any special effects with battles, things like that. You're actually watching 100 minutes. You've got 100 minutes of total practice, but you actually only benefited from about 50 minutes.
A lot of people use Netflix for listening.
Right.
But they're wasting a lot of time by having listening as their focus.
Right. Versus a 30-minute podcast. Now, of course, if I'm like, hey, here's a 100-minute movie versus a 30-minute podcast, a lot of
Like
people are
this
gonna,
one.
yeah, they're gonna be like, oh, of course, more practice, right? But the 30 minutes is only audio, only audio.
Only talking.
There is no visual when it comes to a podcast, and so they have to be constantly talking. And so you get 30 minutes of practice and you benefited from 30 minutes of that, right? And so that's just maximizing. You listen to 2 podcasts, you would have to watch 200 minutes of a movie in order to get the same benefit of two 50-minute podcasts. And so that's what we're saying is use your time wisely, right? You don't get to go
Stop
back.
throwing away your time.
And that's what
Exactly.
that's what so many people are like, oh, I don't have time to learn English. Well, what do you do for English currently? I watch Netflix. I know why you don't have time.
You are setting your time on fire right now. If you
Yes.
want to practice your listening, turn off the TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there are
exactly.
ways to use Netflix for practice. For example, reading. Like I said, watch it with subtitles. There is zero shame in watching with subtitles at all. So watch it with subtitles, practice your reading. And this is
Yeah.
if you have a really hard time with reading books. But if you are going to watch Netflix, you're going to watch Netflix anyway, right? So you might as well use it to practice something. Practice your reading.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I am that person actually that I am not really good at reading because I get bored quickly. So I certainly use Netflix to read and practice my reading. So
It
yeah.
adds a little bit of action to the reading versus just like the page reading.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, guys, let's say now that a listener feels good about having a casual conversation, but networking events terrify them. Can you give us some specific practice to build confidence and have an enjoyable conversation? And in this question, I would like you also to add the tips you share with us in the program about the small talk and big impact.
Yeah.
Please.
I was actually
Perfect.
going to say that was my exact answer. If you ever feel stuck when it comes to a conversation, it means you're not digging deep enough. And unfortunately, that's just the truth, right? If we get stuck, the conversation is not interesting and it ended. But what we teach is that the way to become the most popular person in a room is to be interested, not interesting. Most people, especially when they're at a networking event, hi, my company does this and this and this and this, and I am this, and you are, blah, blah, blah. They're telling you why they're interesting. Most people will become more interested in you when they realize that they don't know about you. You've gotten that mystery, but you've been having a conversation, right? You've been having that conversation. And that's just through having small talk and threading conversations, finding something they said and building on that. Actually, one big mistake is that people ask random questions. Juvi, what's your favorite color? Oh, what's your favorite movie? Do you work? Where's your mom?
Do you like dogs?
And it
Yes.
becomes
No. Bye, weird.
bye, weirdo.
Yeah. Exactly.
It becomes an interrogation, and that's how most people small talk. But if I were to be like, oh, hey, why, who, what, where, these types of questions are not easily answered with yes or no. And so we could say, what brings you here? What company do you work with? Right? And that opens up a conversation. What company do you work with? Oh, I work with Nail Tech Industries. Yeah, okay, well, what does Nail Tech Industries do?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
the
important thing with threading is you ask the question and they will give an answer that's not yes or no. It will be, oh, I work for this company. Find one or two things about that their response and choose one of them to ask a new question or to make a comment about. And that's going to it's basically the conversation is having itself.
Right.
Because they're telling you how to respond exactly within their response.
And eventually that natural curiosity kicks in, and we have the ping pong effect, right? Which is usually when the person eventually says, "What about you?" Right? You're asking them about their work or whatever, and they will do what we call the ping pong effect. And that's, "Oh, well, what about you? What do you do? Why are you here?"
Yeah.
It's just a natural human curiosity.
Absolutely. And the one of the biggest things too, especially with a networking event, you're trying to meet new people. So you have two jobs, right? One, first of all, you need to, again, going back to the answer to number one, you know what you know. You are there for a reason.
Yeah.
Use that. When they're asking you questions about you know how to respond. You don't need to make something up. But if the problem is when you have another person, this is where people get stuck a lot. Say, for example, I go to a networking event and there is a mechanic or there's somebody there that they do something completely different. I don't know anything about their industry. And so I think I don't know enough. Not, I don't have any knowledge. I don't know how to talk to them. I don't know have any knowledge about their industry. So I just can't talk to them. But what you do know how to do is how to ask questions. You do know how to learn about their industry through
It's a
them.
perfect opportunity to ask questions.
Yes, and people love talking about themselves. People love talking about themselves. So when you say, what do you do for work? And they say, oh, I do this, and they some big words, I don't know. And and you say, wow, this is where you go, what's that? Where you go, whoa, what's that like? I don't know necessarily what that is. Could you tell me a little bit about it?
Too many
And
people
then,
are so afraid to look like they don't know what the other
yeah,
person is talking about.
you don't have to pretend to know
Yeah.
about everybody's industry. You just have to know how to ask questions, and people will be delighted to teach you. And so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's my favorite.
That's true.
And
You can talk to anybody.
And one thing that the one reason why we really stick by this is because we keep getting a very similar comment, and we use this method. We use this within our sales calls, within our networking. We use this skill ourselves. And the one comment that we always get whenever we finally make a sale or whenever we strike a good partnership is, "I feel like you guys really wanted to get to know me. I really wanted, I feel like you guys knew who I was." Right? And
Hmm.
it was through asking questions and digging deeper.
Through listening. You know, a lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
people will say, it feels like you're in my head. It'd be like, because I know what your struggles are, because I've asked you a lot
Yeah.
of questions.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that I also think that it's very important to listening actively, not only to ask good questions. In order to ask good questions, you really need to be interested in the conversation. Like
Yeah.
you really have to have that feeling of really want to get to know the other person. It's
Yeah.
not only about you and making big impact. You know, I think that
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yeah.
with just there was the perfect quote. I will be paraphrasing this quote, but they say the problem these days is that a lot of people they listen to respond. They don't listen to understand. And I feel like that's
Yeah.
a big factor in meeting new people is or just getting along with people in general, being a human. Listen to understand, not just to respond. And I think that your life will be so
Exactly.
much easier.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys. I think this conversation is so exciting. I would like to ask you next. Some people might feel stuck at a certain level of confidence, because they have certain level. They understand most things like this conversation that we are having, eh, but they feel like they cannot have a conversation, a fluent conversation. So, what would you recommend to those people?
That's a really, really loaded question. I like it though.
Yeah.
So I think that for me, if you feel stuck, that's a trigger. That is something that you need to take as a trigger that you are now ready to go to the next level. Um, that means that every resource that you currently have is not working for you, especially if you are trying to find those resources. I know a lot of people who they have been trying for months, different groups, different apps, different programs, and it's just not sticking, right? And so that is a trigger for you to move forward. And I know that sometimes it feels like we are just going in circles. And that's, in my opinion, is because you're not working with someone who knows what they're doing. If you feel stuck, it's time for a coach, or
Yeah.
to become comfortable with feeling where you are, right? If you're not willing to pay for a coach, or you're not willing to invest in yourself at that point, you got to be comfortable with just feeling that level, that stuck. But if you're really, hey, I feel stuck and I need to punch through, it's time to invest in yourself and to really get that next level education. For beginners, though, if you're a beginner, no, over info dump, honestly, but just make
Bio.
sure you're doing it for
Yeah.
free.
Yeah, just you can get so much information online for free, even as a beginner. Don't pay for vocabulary. Don't pay for phrasal verbs, and don't pay for idioms and slang. Don't pay for information that you can easily find for free.
And now,
Yeah.
if you are a person who does struggle financially, though, because there are a lot of people who that's why they're wanting to learn English. They're struggling financially and they need a new English speaking job to get more money. If you are a person who can't afford a coach, and I totally understand that there are many like that, um, I would say start noting your own mistakes, right? And that can be hard because you're making the mistake. So you might not know that it's a mistake, right? But if you can start getting into the habit of really identifying yourself and then keeping track, oh, I said the past tense wrong. Okay, focus on past tense. Oh, I called him a girl. That was wrong. Okay, that's a boy, not a girl. Okay, vocabulary girl. You know, that's faster with a coach because the coach can listen and go, oh, you made this mistake, fix this, right? But if you're really low on cash, keeping a mistakes journal and noting when you make those mistakes can help you progress on your own. It'll be a little slower, but it still will show patterns that you can then start working on.
I would like to also ask you if you can share some actionable tips on how to find the best tech tool for your needs if you want to improve your fluency or your grammar or your vocabulary.
So I think that definitely depends. First off, ask yourself your level, right? We need to know your level and why you want to use English. Because again, like I said previously, if you're a beginner, you should just be absorbing vocabulary and grammar. Just learn the rules, right? In that situation, you just want the basics. Duolingo, Lingoda, Babbel, whatever it may be.
Master the basics before you move on.
Right. But if you're an intermediate to advanced learner, well, those apps are just going to be repetition, and your brain will eventually habituate that and it will just start to forget the information. Um, at that point, asking yourself what you want to use your English for.
Mhm.
Because if you're just wanting to learn English so you can start a YouTube channel, well, that's very different than learning sales English, right? Very different.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just going off of what Jeremy is saying, because a lot of people do get stuck in there, like, I don't even know where to go from here. Right. And so
Yeah.
um they're like, I don't know what I need help with. I have no idea. So I can't really get better if I don't know what's wrong. And so just kind of getting very specific with what your goals are. And a lot of people will only look at their big goal. I want to learn English. I want to be fluent, right? And while that is important, that is what you want, we don't know why. And so getting specific with, okay, I'm learning English. What's my next goal? What's my next goal? And breaking it down. So my next goal is getting a job, right? Okay, so what do I need to learn in order to get that job? I need to be good at interview skills. I might need to study for an exam to get a good score. I might also need to know something about that industry. I might not know anything about that industry, but they are hiring. So competence equals confidence. You want to learn more and more and more about that industry. So it's all about getting rid of what is not necessary and not jumping to everything that looks shiny to you and finding the things that align with your goals.
Yeah. If I can use kind of like an example, just because I know that we've heard these words before, right? But I want to paint a picture for some people. Learning English on, say, Duolingo, not to say that Duolingo's bad, don't sue me, Duolingo. But learning English on Duolingo 5 minutes a day is like going to the gym and lifting a 5-pound weight for 5 minutes.
And then
You
going home.
you will see progress extremely slowly and very, so you have to ask yourself what type of workout that goal is going to bring. If you're moving to the United States to get a new job, you are going to need to be very fluent. You've got neighbors, you've got to do all your daily work, pay your bills, go to work and deal with clients. That is going to require a new level of coaching. Someone who's not just going to help you correct certain things once a week, who's going to work with you every day and make sure you are doing everything that you need to achieve that level, right? That's a big workout. That's going to be the hardest work you've ever done in your life. But if you're just, hey, I'm going to be going to America in 2 months and I just want to learn how to order coffee. Do not pay money for that, right? You just need to identify what you're going to be doing. Okay, I'm going to be going to the museum. Awesome. They've probably got translations there. You don't need to learn museum vocabulary. Where will you need to learn English?
Yeah.
Most likely, since you're a tourist, directions.
Travel.
Being able to stop someone and go, hey, where is this? Right?
Yeah.
And instead, people are going, all right, I'm going to learn how to say Plantacenta Dantosaurus because I'm going to a museum.
Yeah, like don't throw out the unnecessary stuff. Like I live in America. There are a lot of different speaking topics that I know nothing about. I've heard these words. I don't know what it is, you know? I don't need to know all of the vocabulary words of what's inside of my vaccine. I don't need to know every single legal word that might be in a document right now. I need to know about my industry. I need to know about what my day-to-day will be like. And so just identifying your needs. I guess that's the biggest takeaway from this. You need to identify your needs. And if you are looking for an app that you want to help you, you know, because we've all been there, we're looking for the app that can teach us the magical things that we need. What can this app do? What can this app give me from this? I need speaking practice. That means I probably don't need this reading app, or I probably don't need this. It means I need something that focuses heavily on speaking, or I need something that focuses heavily on listening, you know, like Elsa Speaks. I want to practice my small talk, episoding. You know, you find out what you need. If I need help with reading, I'm not going to episoding. I'm going to go to episoding because I want to practice conversation.
And if I might add just one more thing when it comes to the apps, also
Yes, please.
understanding how they're structured. And I want to put out that I'm not saying that these companies are doing that, but it leaves the room for the potential. Consider this though. Let's say you join an app and they are offering you, hey, unlimited practice with unlimited translations or unlimited partners, but you have to pay $15 a month, right? So pretty cheap. Actually, like super, super cheap in the language learning space. 15 a month to get as unlimited practice as you want. What a deal, right? But let me ask this question. What is the incentive to the company for you to get better?
Does that company want you to get better?
If you get better, you stop paying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Like yeah.
why would I
Totally
give
makes
you the secrets to success if you're going to be paying me $15 a month until you
Yeah.
figure it out yourself.
It's kind of like with us, like how many times did you pay us, Juvi? One time.
Only
One
one.
time. And you've
So
been
we
with us
want
for a
you to
year.
be, you've been with us for about a year. Yeah.
Mhm.
We want you to be
Yeah.
successful because there is no incentive for us to keep you bad. We don't want you
And
to keep paying us.
even this is something that they say at the beginning of the program, and it's shocking if you are not get used to it. They say, I want you to be independent from us. And it's like, what? But you are my coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
yeah.
want you to never need us again.
Yes. That is our
We want you to want us, but we don't want you to need us. So we were going to teach you how to not need us anymore.
Oh yeah, there are if I have a client who stays with me for a long time, I love them. Don't get me wrong, I do love them, but I feel like I have not been giving them what they need if they still need me after a couple of years. If I'm doing my job as a true coach, I love the community and I always want to hear about their success, but I don't want my client to need me forever. I want them to be able to let go and say,
Fly away, little bird.
I want them to be able to say,
Yeah.
you did it. Thank you. I can take
Tell
it from
your
here.
children about me. Tell your
I
friends
will,
and
guys.
family.
I will. And for sure they will be your friends.
I love
Oh
it.
my gosh, Juvi, you'd have the cutest little babies.
Oh.
Oh yeah, I just thought about that.
Well, so far I have enjoyed so much of this conversation, and I am sure that people who listen to us will do. And to finish the episode, I wouldn't like, because I love talking to you and I feel like you have too many things to share. But to finish, I would like to ask you, what would it be the golden piece of advice you want to share with people who listen to us? You can take your time, because I know this is deep.
This is a very loaded
This one.
question.
I'll let
Yeah.
Taylor.
Can we have two different answers?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I'll let
Okay.
Taylor think about it first, because I actually do have my answer. I think that the biggest thing that I want you to take away from yourself from this is to believe in yourself and to treat yourself like you believe in yourself, right? There are so many people who they feel like they don't deserve the life that they want, and they fall into just being okay with life. I hate that word, okay, right? I want people to thrive and to be able to hit their goals, or at least a version of their goal. And it starts with you believing in yourself. Take the free call if you feel like if you have a consultation with someone who you think can help you. Jump on that free live stream. Go into those things with intention, but believe in yourself. Don't allow yourself to wait, because whether or not you do it, it's time's going to move forward. And so you can either ride with time and see where it takes you, or you can stay behind and regret and wonder what if. But believe in yourself to take the leap. Move to America or get that new job. Talk to that cute English speaker that you always wanted to talk to. Do it. That's what I take away.
Yeah. Give yourself a big enough chance to invest in yourself, basically. So my biggest piece of advice, the biggest takeaway that I want people to take away from this is stop getting in your own way. Stop getting in your own way. Half the time when we see something that we want and we convince ourselves that we don't that we don't deserve it. We convince ourselves that we can't before we even try. And I think it's really important to not be your own obstacle. Stop being a speed bump for yourself. Um, if you want something, go for it and stop making excuses for yourself. If you want it, like this is kind of going off of what Jeremy said, and how I think it's really important if you're telling yourself that you can't do something, your mind is going to believe it. Your mind is totally going to believe it if you tell yourself, I can't do that.
And
And then you're not going to do it.
in some situations, like with your sister, with Joe, she saw that
Yeah.
listing. It required what? Perfect English.
Perfect English.
And she told us, I want to apply, but I don't have perfect English. And to which
Yeah.
we said, the worst
don't
they
either.
can do is say no. The worst they can do is say no, apply anyway. And she's been at that job very happily speaking English, right?
Yep.
If she had listened to her brain, which was telling her, you don't have this, you can't do
Mhm.
this, you aren't ready yet. And she was even optimistic about it. Joe was like, oh, I'm just not ready yet. I will be ready. No, 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 no. She was so optimistic about it, but that still killed the action. And
Yeah.
once she took that action, it worked out. And
Yeah.
she couldn't imagine it, but it was because we are our worst critics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
I think that's a two biggest pieces of advice to all people that are listening to us. Thank you again, guys, for this. I'm really happy that you accepted to be here in the third episode of my podcast. And I want to invite people who are listening to us to write their comments down below, their anecdotes, what they want to share with us, and we will be happy answer and commenting all those comments. So thank you so much again, and I hope to have another episode with you guys, to be honest.
We would love that.
Absolutely.
We love talking with you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.